All right. Here we go. Now, this is getting crazy. Russia just got destroyed on the global scale by the United Nations. Now, for those of you who are not aware, the United Nations tends to meet every year. And of course, my dog starts barking when I do this live. This is an important meeting every year where world leaders could essentially talk to one another. It's not uncommon for world leaders to get upset or to call out actions they don't agree with. It's happened throughout time. The United States has gotten their fair share of things. Libya, every single country, North Korea, whatever. So it's not uncommon for countries to walk off, and it's not uncommon for countries to get pissed off. Now, this is the first time Mr. Zelensky has actually spoken on the global stage in the UN, and he had a lot of things to say. However, this guy right here did not want any of it. Now, if you guys are watching this live, please like the live stream. It helps out a lot. Again, please like the live stream. I don't know why YouTube's annoying like that, but that's what we have to do. This right here is a representative from Russia who tried to silence Ukraine. He was saying, no, he's not allowed to talk, just sort of causing a disruptance. Albania was having none of that. Albania straight up told this guy, shut up, end your war, or shut up because you're being a hypocrite. This is crazy right here. Here we go. We're going to play this clip, and then we'll get to what Zelensky had to say. But again, watch this.
From you, all this lecture of violating the rules in this building is quite an impressive shoot. But as far as you repeated many times that the violation here is about President Zelensky speaking before the Council members, there is a solution for this if you agree. You stop the war and President Zelensky will not take the floor.
We'll play this again. And of course, this pisses off Russia so much to the point where they just walked out and left. Again, the context. The Russian, not the ambassador, but the Russian representative was sort of bickering and saying, you can't let Zelensky talk. This is against protocol. Zelensky was also getting annoyed. And again, this guy is in charge. This is the Prime Minister of Albania. He's in charge of the session. He's the president, so he has the last say on who can talk or not talk, or to make sure everyone chills out. And then he says this.
You stop the war and President Zelensky will not take the floor.
If you stop the war, Zelensky will not take the floor, because let's be honest, that is the reason as to why Zelensky is taking the floor, to end the war and to end this conflict.
You want the floor again? Okay.
Mr. President, I wish to draw your attention to the fact that you today are acting as President of the Security Council, not speaking in your national capacity as a representative of Albania. Your objective is to conduct a meeting as is enshrined in the rules of procedure of the Security Council instead of providing political assessments in your capacity as the President of the Security Council.
Okay, so now, so you are aware, whenever a leader of this council, the president, they're not supposed to act in the capacity of Albania. But listen to what the leader says of Albania, the prime minister, and how he addresses Russia. Russia always plays this game of semantics. They try to play, like, first and foremost, President Putin is not at the UN because he's being held, or he has charges against him, crimes against humanity. So it's just ironic that Russia is, like, trying to act all big and bad when their own leader is not there to talk, you know, in their place, where usually they do. But listen, so just so you understand, I want to get this point across, that if you are in charge of a session, you are not supposed to, like, if President Biden was in charge, he's not the United States. He's there just to facilitate and to moderate. However, this is what Albania has to say.
Thank you.
I just responded to you after you addressing me as the Albanian Prime Minister and after you continuing to say incorrect things about what the procedure is here. If you
Albania says, hey, if you're going to talk to me as Albania, I'm going to respond as Albania. And again, if you're watching this live, please like this live stream. It helps out a lot. We have a lot of material to get through.
don't want me to answer as an Albanian Prime Minister, don't provoke me as such.
Dang, son. This dude mic dropped. He's like, I'm not having any of it. So it had me wondering, like, does Albania and Russia, do they not have ties? Are they not like allies? Because I was under the impression that Albania and Russia really didn't have that many issues with one another. And so when I was doing some research, it's not that they don't dislike one another. There's just no relationship there. On the other hand, it is seen that there are not many pro-Russian political groups in Albania. Therefore, Russian influence in Albania was limited due to some political and cultural conditions. No Russian president or prime minister has visited Albania in 30 years. So in 30 years, Russia has never visited Albania. I just want to play this part one more time. I don't know why I think it's so funny. The semantics here of Russia is just like insane. One more time.
Mr. President, I wish to draw your attention to the fact that you today are acting as president of the Security Council, not speaking in your national capacity as a representative of Albania. Your objective is to conduct a meeting as is enshrined in the rules of procedure of the Security Council instead of providing political assessments in your capacity as the president of the Security Council. Thank you.
I just responded to you after you addressing me as the Albanian Prime Minister and after you continuing to say incorrect things about what the procedure is here. If you don't want me to answer as an Albanian Prime Minister, don't provoke me as such.
Okay, so apparently also this prime minister is known to be sort of a jokester in a good way. We're using humor and comedy to try to diffuse a situation. So this guy, when I was doing some research, he's just known to, act like this, but not in a way that's joking. Like this conflict in Ukraine and Russia is no joke, but nonetheless, he diffused that situation rather well. And now this is Zelensky. And understand this, Zelensky now is in the same room with Russia, and Zelensky goes pretty hard. I mean, this is the condensed version, and then we'll go look at some longer clips, but I think this is what's the word I want to use without getting in trouble? I think it's a great move for Ukraine to be in the same room as Russia, and then look at the outfit Zelensky's wearing. He's always wearing, like he's ready for combat.
Від старту повномасштабної агресії, розпочатої державою, яка досі чомусь серед постійних членів Ради безпеки ООН, минуло вже 574 доби болю, втрат і боротьби.
We'll go to the English translation after this, but there are captions.
Росія вбила щонайменше десятки тисяч наших людей та зробила мільйони біженцями, зруйнувавши їхній дім. Світова більшість визнає правду про цю війну. Це злочинна та неспровокована агресія Росії проти нашої нації, що має на меті захоплення території.
And this guy's sweating right now. This guy, I mean, again, if you go and look at historically speaking, this is the classic move from a country who's getting called out. Like North Korea has walked out in the middle of one of these hearings. Again, this is like the classic. If you thought Russia was not about the like everyone knew this was going to happen. This guy is on his cell phone, not paying attention and acting like it's not a big deal. Everything is full. He's full of crap. And of course, he walks out in the middle of the speech.
Що має на меті захоплення території та ресурсів України. Але не тільки це. Держава-терорист має на меті своєю агресією підірвати всі дамби міжнародних норм, які мають захищати світ від воєн.
Okay, we actually have a longer what Zelensky actually says. And again, I think it'll be interesting to go through this and review it and understand this is the first time Zelensky is doing this. But Zelensky has already been all over the world. Zelensky knows who his partners are not. I am interested to see if any of you guys are not aware, Mexico did have Russia and China in their parade, and that sort of pissed off Ukraine. Like I thought we were friends and you're celebrating your Independence Day with people that we're at war with. That was a little interesting.
I welcome all who stand for common efforts, and I promise, being really united, we can guarantee fair peace for all nations.
Oops, I don't think.
What's more, unity can prevent wars. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Secretary General, Mr. President, fellow leaders, this call so many wars, but not as active defender against the aggressions. In many cases, the fear of war, the final war, was the loudest here, the war after which no one would gather in the General Assembly Hall again. The sword will...
Yeah, and understand this. I'm not going to keep cutting this off, but Russia is a part of the UN Security Council. And so Zelensky is up here saying, how can you allow a country who's like under war crimes and has all these issues going on, and they're sitting in a Security Council? That's another massive thing here. Zelensky's saying, like, how is this happening? And then Russia's like, now you can see why Russia was doing everything they could to please not let this guy get on the global stage, because this is Zelensky's moment. He needs this moment to go in his favor. He needs to put out the best speech ever. He needs to sway people to go on his side, especially in the context of the United States right now, who's in the middle of trying to figure out, are we going to give more weapons and money to Ukraine? Zelensky, of course, will be meeting with a lot of government officials who are sort of the opposition to Ukraine. Not that they dislike Ukraine, but even the United States is starting to question whether or not we should keep giving more funds to Ukraine after, what, $78 billion-ish dollars? $80 billion-ish dollars?
Cold War was seen as a nuclear war, a conflict between states on the highway to nukes. Other wars seemed less scary compared to a threat of the so-called great powers firing their nuclear stockpiles. So the 20th century taught the world to restrain from the use of the weapons of mass destruction, not to deploy, not to proliferate, not to threaten with, and not to test, but to promote a complete nuclear disarmament.
I will say this. I do think it's interesting that the media sort of downplays the use of nukes. Like, this is a real threat. Now, most likely this will not happen, but even in like Afghanistan or other conflicts, you never hear about nukes being used or nukes might be used. There's really only two countries in the world where this nukes are used in the same sentence: North Korea and Russia. And to Zelensky's point, he's like, guys, are you not paying attention to what's happening here?
Frankly, this is a good strategy, but it should not be the only strategy to protect the world from the final war. Ukraine gave up its third largest nuclear arsenal. The world then decided Russia should become a keeper of such power. Yet
I have to point this out, and again, I'm not trying to keep cutting this off. Ukraine always shows up like they're about to... Either they're about to go fishing or they just got back from a drop zone, like in combat. Again, I'm just... It's very interesting. I think I don't know. I'm not great with fashion here, but they came to play. They mean business. Russia shows up in a suit and tie. Ukraine shows up in like military garb.
history shows it was Russia who deserved nuclear disarmament the most back in 1990s. And Russia deserves it now. Terrorists have no right to hold nuclear weapons.
Russia not paying attention.
Right. But truly, not the nukes are the scariest now. While nukes remain in place, the mass destruction is gaining its momentum. The aggressor is weaponizing many other things, and those things are used not only against our country, but against all of yours as well.
Dang.
Fellow leaders, there are many conventions that restrict weapons, but there are no real restrictions on weaponization. First, let me give you an example. The food.
Again, this is the first time he's doing this. If you're just joining now, this is the first time Zelensky's actually talking to the UN.
Since the start of the full-scale war, the Ukrainian ports in the Black and Azov seas have been blocked by Russia. Until now, our ports on the Danube River remain the target for missiles and drones.
Uh-oh, Russia taking
notes.
notes.
It is clear Russia's attempt to weaponize the food shortage on the global market
Very accurate.
in exchange for recognition for some, if not all, of the captured territories.
A little more context, because YouTube and people tend to talk about just the combat aspect. To Zelensky's point, ever since Russia started going after the wheat deal and going after ports in the Danube, where you had like pieces fall into Romania, and ever since Russia has been going after like grain silos, Russia has been boasting that this is unironically, this is the biggest year for a harvest that's ever happened in Russian history. Do you think that's the truth, or do you think it's just as irony here? Okay, where we're going after Ukraine, but then all of a sudden the biggest grain harvest, and we have so much grain, we're gonna give it away for free. And Africa is sort of being used as this puppet for Russia to show, hey, look how much grain we have. We're gonna give it to you for free. Also, we're gonna give you some free money. So this is what Zelensky is sort of pointing at, where Ukraine food supplies are being attacked in order to leverage Russia to look good for the whole world.
Russia is launching the food prices as weapons. The impact spans from the Atlantic coast of Africa to the Southeast Asia. And this is the threat scale. And I would like to thank those leaders who supported our Black Sea Grain Initiative and program Grain from Ukraine. Thank you so much. It is to make Ukrainian food products available on the market, from Algeria to Spain to Indonesia and China. And even now, when Russia has undermined the Black Sea Grain Initiative.
Somebody said Zelensky's English has gotten well. Well, of course, I mean, Zelensky has been on like this world campaign to try either getting funds or try to make friends. And of course, English is one of the global languages, or one of the languages that could easily be connected to talk to one another. So yeah, Zelensky's English has been getting better, but I think that's also because he's been having to speak a lot of it.
We are working to ensure food stability.
Russia's like, I'm on my phone right now.
Many of you will join us in these efforts. We launched a temporary sea export corridor from our ports, and we are working hard to preserve the land routes for grain exports. And it is alarming to see how some in Europe, some our friends in Europe, play out solidarity in political theater, making thriller
Indonesia
from the grain. And they may seem to play their own role, but in fact, they are helping set the stage to a Moscow actor. Second, weaponization of energy.
Man.
Many times the world has witnessed Russia using energy as a weapon. Kremlin weaponized oil and gas to weaken the leaders of other countries when they came to the Red Square. And now this threat is even greater. Russia is weaponizing nuclear energy.
Well, this is an interesting point, and somebody asked me, sort of a good segue here, do you think that the militant groups which are growing in Africa may come across the Mediterranean and hit places like Crimea in conjunction with Russia? No, because nobody is able to work with the militant groups. These militant groups who work in Sahel Africa, which Russia is fighting against, will never ever partner with anyone who has to do anything with the West. I know Russia's not the West, but they see them as the West, so absolutely not. However, Russia, back to this nuclear thing, in Niger, Russia would love nothing more than for the French to get kicked out of Niger, because the French get uranium from Niger, and they have about a 15% stake. They use the uranium in Niger as 15% nuke in their country. So this would be a massive loss for the French, and Russia knows this.
Not only it is spreading its
not paying attention.
Unreliable nuclear.
This guy looks like me when I was in college, just not paying attention.
Power plant construction technologies, but it is also turning other countries' power plants into real dirty bombs.
He doesn't even have his earpiece in.
Look, please, what Russia did to our Zaporizhia power plant. Shelled it, occupied it, and now blackmails others with radiation leaks. Is there any sense to reduce nuclear weapons when Russia is weaponizing nuclear power plants? Scary question. The global security architecture offers no response or protection against such a treacherous radiation threat.
I mean, that's true. And when the whole conflict started, there was a massive threat over with Chernobyl, and we all know what happened with Chernobyl. But nonetheless, it was sort of scary to see how Russian troops were able to go into Chernobyl and just capture it and then have the scientists make sure everything goes okay. If one bad thing happened, we would have had another disaster over Europe. So there is some validity in what Zelensky's saying where, look, it can become a very scary situation really quick beyond the actual threat of weaponizing nukes, but like going into places like Chernobyl.
And there is no accountability for radiation blackmailers so far. The sword example is children. Children. Unfortunately, various terrorist groups abduct children to put pressure.
This right here is what Putin is being charged with, by the way.
On their families and societies. But never before the mass kidnapping and deportation would become a part of the government policy. Not until now. We know the names of tens of thousands of children and have evidence on hundreds of thousands of others kidnapped by Russia in the occupied territories of Ukraine and later deported.
And the International Criminals Court has put together their own claims and their own investigation into this. And of course, this is why Putin pretty much doesn't show up anywhere, because he does have a bounty on him, if you will. And if you guys can see this up here, Russian Federation not paying attention. If I was Zelensky, I would be staring this guy down the whole time. I would just be staring at this guy and just looking right at him. Because this guy is not paying attention. Of course, this is a show. You'll notice everyone else is paying attention as a show of respect. But as far as Russia, I mean, again, this is the game at the UN. This is what happens at the UN. It's happened throughout the years, and it just so happens the two countries who are sort of facing off right now is, of course, Russia and Ukraine.
The International Criminal Court issued arrest warrant for Putin for this crime. And we are trying to get children back home. But time goes by. What will happen with them? What will happen to them? Those children in Russia are taught to hate Ukraine.
And it's true, even to Zelensky's point, there was even a lot of people in NATO or the West questioning if this was true or not, and it turns out it was true. You had kids who were saved. Hey, thank you for the $5 donation. Thank you so much, Sugar. And if you guys want to help out, please like the live stream. It helps me out a ton. This is almost over, but thank you so much for the likes, and thank you so much for the donation. Many people were like, how could this be? What does Russia have to gain by taking children? But it turned out to be true. Like, there were children who finally came back and were like, yeah, like, they were trying to send us away and have us adopted from families. Like, we already had families. And so this right here is it's pretty crazy, and it's very historic for Zelensky to put this out there in the public while Russia is sitting right there.
And all ties with their families are broken. And this is clearly a genocide. When hatred is weaponized against one nation, it never stops there. Each decade, Russia starts a new war. Parts of Moldova and Georgia remain occupied. Russia turned Syria into ruins. And if not Russia, the chemical weapons would have never been used there in Syria. Russia has almost swallowed Belarus. It is obviously threatening Kazakhstan and other Baltic states.
Not paying attention.
And the goal of the present war against Ukraine is to turn our land, our people, our lives, our resources into a weapon against you, against the international rules-based order.
Somebody said I look like Zelensky's bigger American cousin. When Zelensky started to become really popular and this whole Ukraine thing was popping off, everyone thought I was Zelensky on TikTok.
Seats in the General Assembly Hall may become empty if Russia succeeds with its treachery and aggression. Ladies and gentlemen, the aggressor scatters deaths and brings ruins even without nukes, but the outcomes are alike. We see towns We see villages in Ukraine wiped out by Russian artillery, leveled to the ground completely.
This is heavy
We see
stuff.
the war of drones. We know the possible effects of spreading the war into the cyberspace.
I mean, yeah, that is true. This Ukrainian conflict, and I'm saying this right now. Thank you so much for the $2 donation. Sorry, man, I have to throw you off. Hey, I appreciate you. Thank you for the donation. And please, guys, make sure you guys like the live stream. It helps out a ton. It is true. I think the number one thing everyone is surprised about, the spectrum of which technology and tactics are used in Ukraine. I mean, you go from trench warfare to drone warfare in the same battle. And so again, Zelensky's pointing out, like, hey, this is what's happening. Like, this is no joke. This is actually happening. While Russia who do you think Russia's texting right now? Who do you think they're talking to? I think they're just, I wish there was a camera on the guy's cell phone to see what he's actually doing.
Artificial intelligence could be trained to combat well before it would learn to help the humanity. Thank God people have not yet learned to use climate as a weapon.
Ooh.
Even though humanity is failing on its climate policy objectives.
Dang, Zelensky bringing in everything.
That extreme weather will still impact the normal global life, and some evil state will also weaponize its outcomes.
He's on the weather app.
And when people in the streets of New York and other cities of the world went out on climate protests, we all have seen them. And when people in Morocco and Libya.
Somebody has a good question here. I'm curious as to how far the Russians went into Chernobyl. Yeah, they were in it. They captured the plant and the surrounding areas. So they were there. And again, this was at like the very, very beginning of the conflict. And not that this conflict is that old, but there's so much action that happens every day. Within like the first couple of days, this was like the major breaking news. What is about to happen? If a stray round or something, artillery hits. It was a pretty scary situation for a lot of Europe and the world. So Russia managed to straight up take Chernobyl.
And other countries die as a result of natural disasters. And when islands and countries disappear underwater, and when tornadoes and deserts are spreading into new territories,
this is almost
and when
over.
all of this is happening, one unnatural disaster in Moscow decided to launch a big war and kill tens of thousands of people.
Dang.
We have to stop it. We must act united
again,
to defeat the aggressor.
He's got to
and
stare.
Focus all our capabilities and energy on addressing these challenges.
They have to stare right at Russia
As
when they say
nukes
this.
are restrained, likewise the aggressor must be restrained, and all his tools and methods of war. Each war now can become final, but it takes our unity to make sure that aggression will not break in again.
Whoa.
And it is not a dialogue between the so-called great powers somewhere behind the closed doors that can guarantee us all the new wars era,
United
but
States.
open war of all nations for peace. Last year, I presented the outlines of the Ukrainian peace formula at the UN General Assembly.
That lady, let's go back real quick. I know this is almost over. That lady looked very American. Hold on. No, I don't know who that is. I'm sure she's a great woman. But yeah, she looks very American. This is as American as you can look. So, someone go find out her name. I'm sure she's awesome.
And Indonesia, I presented the full formula. And over the past year, the peace formula became the basis to update the existing security architecture. Now we can bring back to life the UN Charter and guarantee the full power for the rules-based world order. And tomorrow, I will present the details at a special meeting of the UN Security Council.
World order.
The main thing is that it is not only about Ukraine. More than 140 states and international organizations have supported the Ukrainian peace formula fully or in part.
This right here is very smart on Ukraine. A lot of people are afraid to say this, but we know it's the truth because even the United States are sort of turning, not against Ukraine, but sort of like, come on now. Thank you so much for letting me know who that was. This is very smart on Zelensky to say it's not only about Ukraine, it's about the rest of the world, because this has been a major critical talking point about Zelensky and Ukraine, that you keep coming to our countries and asking for this and asking for that, but what are you giving us other than, yes, you're fighting the Russians, but again, this is very, very smart on Zelensky, and I do like that, he's being open and saying, we want help, but we also want to work together. So this is extremely smart on Zelensky, especially for his very first time talking on the global stage like this.
The Ukrainian peace formula is becoming global. Its points offer solutions and steps that will stop all forms of weaponization that Russia used against Ukraine and other countries and may be used by other aggressors. Look, for the first time in modern history, we have a real chance to end the aggression on the terms of the nation which was attacked. And this is a real chance for every nation to ensure that aggression against your state, if it happens, God forbid, will end. Not because your land will be divided and you will be forced to submit to military or political pressure, but because your territory and sovereignty will be fully restored.
One more minute.
We launched the format of meetings between national security advisors and diplomatic representatives. Important talks and consultations were held in Hiroshima, in Copenhagen, and in Jeddah.
He's all over
on
the world.
Implementation of the peace formula. And we are preparing a global peace summit. And please, I invite all of you who do not tolerate any aggression, to jointly prepare the summit.
Do you think he also invited Russia?
And
I guarantee they show one more clip of Russia not paying attention.
Aware of the attempts to make some shady dealings behind the scenes. Evil cannot be trusted. Ask Prigozhin if one bets on Putin's promises.
Whoa. Hold on.
Please do not tolerate
Oh my gosh. This wasn't on the news. This is big news right here. Zelensky just name dropped the head of Wagner whose jet was taken out, or crashed, whatever you want to say. He really just name dropped the head of Wagner in a UN council. Holy crap. No one's talking about that. Oh my gosh. Hold on, let's play that again.
Aggression to jointly prepare the summit. And I am aware of the attempts to make some shady dealings behind the scenes. Evil cannot be trusted. Ask Prigozhin if one bets on Putin's promises.
Holy crap.
Please, hear me. Let unity decide everything openly. While Russia is pushing the world to the final war, Ukraine is doing everything to ensure that after Russian aggression, no one in the world will dare to attack any nation. Weaponization.
By the way, he never brought up Putin in this whole speech. And again, this might be another tactic to not say Putin or talk about the leader of Russia. Never talks about Shoigu, the defense ministry. They just call them the aggressors. And I think that was sort of overlooked. I think that is very deliberate. And I will say this, I think Putin is so egotistic that he hates that he's not being mentioned. But the fact that he mentioned Prigozhin and not Putin, oof.
Must be restrained. War crimes must be punished.
They didn't show his face.
People must come back home, and the occupier must return to their own land. We must be united to make it, and we'll do it. Slava Ukraini.
Whoa. Show Russia. Oh, they didn't show Russia. That was a good speech. For a very first speech on the global stage like that, that was really good. Yeah, I think they overlooked the fact that he never brought up Putin. No one really said that. And he also, bringing up Prigozhin is a slam dunk insult. Because that was the guy who was on the doorsteps of capturing Moscow and ending Russian rule. Like, many people speculate he wasn't going to be able to do it, but nonetheless, this was like Putin's ex-chef, right-hand guy, and he almost ended it all. but now he's not here. So, yeah, okay. Thank you guys for liking the stream. Thank you for sticking around. I hope we all learned something. And pretty interesting stuff. I think Zelensky did a good job. I think it'll definitely work in his favor after this UN to get more countries on his side and to see where he's coming from. Of course, Russia was not paying attention. Nothing new there. Again, this was going to happen. Everyone knew this was going to happen. That's why there's a camera pointed on the guy's face. And it almost seems like the UN is trying to generate this drama. Like, of course, like out of every single country, Russia has a camera on them. Yeah, okay. So anyway, I'm gonna post this live stream. Can you guys do me the biggest favor ever? I'm gonna post this live stream. Go like it. Go send a comment over there. Let me know what you think, and I'll go read through the comments, comment back. It helps out a lot. Thank you guys for everything. Love all of you guys. Thank you for the donations. Thank you for being here, and we will see you guys later. Thank you so much. I enjoyed it.